Army of the Dead is directed by Zack Snyder and stars Dave Bautista, Ella Purnell, Omari Hardwick, Theo Rossi, and a bunch of others. And it tells a story of a group of mercenaries who, following a zombie outbreak in Las Vegas, take the ultimate gamble and venture into the quarantine zone to pull off the greatest heist ever attempted. So the first Zack Snyder movie I ever saw was Dawn of the Dead, 2004, and I absolutely loved it. I felt like he smashed it. And the thing, as we know, remakes are not always, they don't always beat the original. That's very rare. I felt like this was one of those rare remakes that actually was better than the original. So it made me kind of an Insta fan in that moment. Fast forward, a lot of movies, a lot of issues. However you feel about his work, I was excited for Army of the Dead just based on the fact that Dawn of the Dead was so awesome. And then I saw it. And my excitement levels just kinda started to, as the movie went along. So first off, let's start with the good stuff. And I'll say this movie has a great look to it. I did like, the visuals of this film, more or less. I'll get into the less a little later on. I liked how crisp it looked. I like how clean everything looked. It definitely has that big budget feel to it. This is a movie that I probably really, really enjoyed seeing it in cinemas. I'm sorry I didn't get to see it that way. I did watch it on Netflix. But it looked good, Another aspect of this film that I quite enjoyed was Dave Bautista, and I feel like he's the strength of this film. He carries a lot of the heavier, dramatic moments on his shoulders, and he shows that he's definitely no one note, no one trick pony. Bautista can act, and it's a shame he doesn't get more roles to show what he can do. He was the entire ensemble cast, I think, worked for me with the exception of maybe one person who we'll get into. But while they are cliched, this is, it's very much like a video game come to life, this entire movie. They're still fun. They still stood out in their own ways, I felt, and I didn't really have much of an issue with the cast. And I think some of them, we get to spend enough time with them that when they do bite the big one, you do tend to feel something for them, and the ones you're supposed to hate, you hate. The ones you're supposed to like, you like. So that stuff worked for me, Overall, the strength of this movie for me is definitely in the fact that it's just this popcorn flick. It's just this mindless kind of zombie movie that once you turn off your brain, you can enjoy it. And sometimes I feel bad saying that. I feel like that's not what you should have to do to enjoy a movie, you know what I mean? Granted, there are some films that are designed that way. It's just about switching off and not looking too deep into that movie. But for me, the issue really is the fact that I kept comparing it to Dawn of the Dead. So I'm going to get into the negatives here, guys, because Dawn of the Dead was a movie that not only delivered on the action, but it delivered on its topic, on its themes, on the emotional stuff. And this movie doesn't really go, it tries to go there with Bautista's character, and what he does really well. But there's no real development here beyond the surface for the other characters. We have some people who have some stuff going on with them, but you only know the surface. Like I said, they're treated like video game characters here. As a matter of fact, video game characters sometimes get more development than this, The visuals, while I did think this movie looked good, that whole thing where Snyder likes to do this shot where he blurs the background and hyper focuses on the faces and stuff. There was way too much of that. It was the entire movie. And yeah, it looks good the first couple times you see it, but to watch that happen all the way through, I mean, come on, it really wasn't necessary. It's like, we know his love for slow-mo, and we do get the slow-mo here. Thank God he does dampen that down here. But it's like he's like, okay, so I'm not gonna do the slow-mo thing here. Let me pile on with the blurry, the blurry background, because it looks really cool. And yeah, it does, but it doesn't at the 100th time you've seen it, it just wears on you. And of course, another issue I had here was just there's so many plot holes that you just have to, like I said, switch off your brain, or else you're gonna be like, well, what kind of person drives down the road without glancing in front of them? I hate when they do that in movies. It's so unrealistic that somebody would carry on an entire conversation with somebody else while they're driving and not look at the street. It's stuff like that. From the very beginning, we have stuff like that happening. We have these moments where it's like, okay, you say these are the rules with these zombies, and then something happens and it's like, but I thought this was the rules, and how do you get turned if you didn't get bitten, and how do you become it? Is a lot of that going on, and you constantly have to tell yourself, well, it's just a zombie movie. But there are really intelligent zombie movies out there, and I feel like that's a cop-out, so on one hand, as a empty popcorn flick action type movie with a lot of cool visual effects and gore and stuff like that. I mean, the gore is CG, which I could do without. I really hate CG gore in a horror movie, but whatever, you get that R rating. They've definitely went for it. And there's funny enough, my favorite action sequence, it surrounded it just one person. It's a female character very early on in the mission, and she wears a red bandana, like my girl in Aliens. You'll know who I'm talking about. That for me was the coolest action sequence, and that surprised me because there was so much else that could have been done with this setting and with this story, and it just kind of plays by the numbers like every other sci-fi movie of the week action movie that I've seen. I expected so much more from this, and I think that's why it left me disappointed. So maybe if you go into this and you really don't expect much from it, you don't compare it against the quality that was Dawn of the Dead, that kind of thing, you'll probably get more out of it than I did. For me, this was just a mediocre zombie movie with a big budget and some big names. The ending also, it felt like it reminded me of the recent Justice League Snyder cut that I watched, where the ending felt like it was doing that Lord of the Rings thing. It was going way too long. He does that here again. We had a natural stopping point, and then bam, there's a whole extra, 5-6 minutes tacked on there. Didn't need to be tacked on. Just stuff like that kept me from really feeling like this was gonna be a better than average zombie movie. I was hoping for a 7 out of 10. I landed on a 5. So Army of the Dead gets a 5 out of 10. I guess it's not a bad popcorn flick, no higher brain function type of movie. But if you went into this expecting something a bit more memorable along the lines of like a 28 Days Later, or a Dawn of the Dead, or even the original Night of the Living Dead, something that packed that kind of punch, this is not the movie for that. So Army of the Dead gets a 5 out of 10. And that's it for this, guys. So let me know how you felt about this movie. Did you love it? Did you thought it was just okay like I did? Did you absolutely hate it? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit that thumbs up button. It's always appreciated. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, you can click on my face when it pops up right about the bottom there. And you can check out past videos if you've got the time. So until the next one, guys. Bye-bye.